They could tell us what exactly happened that led to the death of how many people?
Over 1,500 something. Well, no one can really explain what happened. But for us, we say, قَدْرَ اللَّهَ مَا شَاءَ فَعَلَ إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. It's Allah who decided. But the whole issue was about the extreme temperatures within that period of Hajj in the Middle East countries, and to be specific, Saudi. The temperatures were above 45 degrees Celsius, and therefore the waves were dehydrating people or running people dry, and they end up dying. But when you look at number of people who died in that period, they were mostly people who didn't have, who were not residing in tents, because the Saudi government has done a very, very good work in terms of management of the pilgrims, most especially in creating facilities which cater for such extreme conditions, while you have a very large number of visitors. So for those people who are not residing in tents, which tents have got air conditioning, which tents have got sprinkling water, automatically had to be impacted on by sunshine. But the bottom line is, Allah says in the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أينما تكونوا يدرككم الموت ولو كنتم في بروج مشيدة, that wherever you are, death will find you, even if you are in a pillar or in an egg that does not have an inlet of anything.
So it is still fine there.
It
so
is
it was their
Allah.
time.
It was their time.
All right then. Also, you are known to be among those who are advocating for one of the very many instrumental people in the PLU. That's the Patriotic League of Uganda.
Yes.
And I don't know whether they were that kind also, like we saw the likes of Bala before he became a minister and other people who were saying that this is all standby generator. End time now, 2026, we don't expect the president on the ballot, but rather we expect the son. And also, they are also pushing the president to consider retiring the general from the military so that he can start his political mobilization as early as then. However, 2 weeks back, he shocked us when he said that he won't be on the ballot. And I was like, oh, where is Sheikh Kassim now? He was one of those who always, working so hard, closely with the general himself. Were you left disappointed or surprised, or you saw this coming?
Idris, I cannot say I was disappointed, because I knew that General Muhoozi Kainerugaba will not be on the ballot paper when he is still in military attire. And the last discussion I had with you here, I was very clear that the laws of our country do not allow a serving military officer or a policeman or a prisoners officer or anybody in the armed forces attire to contest for any leadership position, whether at LC1 level or the highest level, which is the presidency. Because in Uganda, you'll hardly contest for any elective position as a flag bearer for a political party. And for an institution like Uganda People's Defense Forces, it is very clear in the constitution that Uganda People's Defense Forces is non-partisan. Though you have individuals who have got their own opinions at individual level, but as an institution, as long as you are still serving it, it is non-partisan. Now, when you go to the APDF Act, it also talks about a serving military officer contesting for any elective position in partisan politics is prohibited. Now, the fact that General Muhoozi Kainerugaba has not retired from the military or resigned from the military, that's the UPDF, and being at the echelon or the top of the ladder of the UPDF leadership, to me it was eminent that he would at some point give direction to the country. So I wasn't surprised that he regarded his people, especially his supporters, that he will not contest for presidency. Because as a serving military officer, he knows the law. The constitution is very clear and the UPDF Act. So I wasn't surprised because it was obvious that when he's still in that attire of UPDF, he can't contest for presidency.
Now the question is, where does this leave you? Not you per se,
Yes.
but you and colleagues in the PLU. Where does this leave the entire PLU? It's now hanging in the air.
Not at all. You see, Patriotic League of Uganda is not a political party. That when you go to the Electoral Commission, you will find the Patriotic League of Uganda registered as a political party among the over 30 political parties we have in our country. But Patriotic League is a civic organization which has got its objectives, which has got its mission, and which has got its vision.
There are those who thought that because
therefore,
originally in Uganda, most of the political parties we have, including the recent ones like the NUP,
Yes.
they began as pressure groups, people power, then giving birth to PLU, rather to NUP. Now PLU, they thought that is the direction it was taking. As a matter of fact, some prominent leaders, political leaders came out and, prophesized, projected this into becoming a political party, which was even going to perform so much better in parliament that it was going to beat opposition political parties in as far as bringing members to parliament was concerned. Among them is Norbert Mao.
Yeah, you saw
that. So people thought this was going to become another political party. Now here you explain that it was not taking that direction.
Yeah, you see, it's very good that Ugandans are politically awake. That whatever happens, they connect it into the political dynamics of our country. But when you look at People Power Movement, I doubt whether it was registered as a civic organization. It remained a pressure group. But here we are having a civic organization which is telling that our cardinal role is to ensure that we work towards conserving our environment. Because that's why you see wherever...
You have that among the objectives?
Yes. Wherever General Mos goes, he plants a tree. It's a symbol of environmental conservation. That's number. Number two, it talks about renewing the spirit of patriotism, love for our country. Number three, it talks about being non-partisan, non-denominational, and non-sectarian.
And that was so much questionable.
Now,
because the patron of PLU
yes,
has been making partisan statements, and so saying that it's non-partisan, that was contradicting.
I really don't know, because I've not, I can't be an island of knowledge. And so you would show me one of the statements which are partisan. But in its cardinal principles, PLU is non-partisan, non-denominational, non-sectarian. And therefore, you do not have a political party in Uganda which is non-partisan. Because NRM can say it's non-partisan. It's NRM, it's a political party. And so this sets Patriotic League of Uganda apart from other pressure groups. Now the announcement of General Moses Kainerugaba, he didn't say, I have stepped aside as the patron of Patriotic League of Uganda. He remains a patron of Patriotic League of Uganda, but he was clearing the air about the speculation around his candidacy for presidency. And as a serving neutral...
I also want to correct you. It wasn't just speculation. This is a man who had hinted on standing for presidency numerous times.
You see, there are two things. When you look at his tweets, there are tweets of Muhoozi Kainerugaba, and there are tweets of Muhoozi as a commander, Land Forces, commander SFC, and CDF. So at some point you have to differentiate between Muhoozi as an individual and Muhoozi as as a serving military officer. And that is why you will not see his tweet on a CDF's platform. So you have to appreciate what he thinks for the future as an individual. And maybe if he was
but he doesn't have the liberty to act as an individual because
does it
the
have the
UPDF
liberty?
bars him. It's like when you're working for a certain company and then you are expected to abide by all the rules. In other words, you're a prisoner. So this time around, we shouldn't be expecting Muhoozi. We don't expect Muhoozi as an individual to speak. He's barred by the law.
You see, Idris, I said that Uganda People's Defense Forces Act does not allow a serving military officer to contest for presidency.
To make partisan statements.
No one. You can quote an article in the Constitution. It doesn't. There's no article which is express. It talks about UPDF as an institution, not an individual. It talks about.
I was saying.
Yes.
The Act does not allow a serving UPDF officer
the Act does
to engage in partisan politics.
The Act does not talk about individuals. It talks about an institution.
Okay.
Yeah, now.
Which institution is made of individuals? Now,
let me make my point. Now, maybe when General Muhoozi Kainerugaba was tweeting about contesting as presidency, as a president, he thought in his mind that at that point he would be out of the UPDF uniform. Because he didn't say that I will contest as a president when I'm in the UPDF attire. So being in the UPDF attire is a barrier. It bars him from offering himself for any elective office. Actually,
and I wanted to add on that.
Our nomination
bars him from engaging, but also bars him from making such partisan statements.
I have not read that one. I haven't read that one.
The president has been said before, where a certain UPDF general made such statements and ended up.
What statements were they?
In 2005,
you quote the statement in verbatim.
I may not be able to do that.
So leave that one.
Because you remember the punishment is served.
You see, me, I want us to go back to.
As gross as this.
Want to go back to what statement did Tumukunde make when he was on one of the radio stations, KFM or Capital
One. It was at Radio 1.
Whatever platform he was on, but bring the statement. We don't want to speculate on what we don't.
There is enough about that. That he made a statement.
What statement was it?
Okay, let's go back to
So for me, I think the principal point is a serving military officer in the UPDF or in other security forces cannot contest, and was not exceptional. So because of that barrier, and of course they have got procedure of returning from the military, and maybe he thought he had not gone through the procedure, and even if he had started, maybe it won't be complete by the time of nomination next year.
So what about those
who were
pushing him to contest for presidency? Were they acting out of ignorance or what? They didn't know about the law? Because a number of them, including members of parliament,
yes,
they've been pushing him to stand for presidency. Others even pushed President Museveni to consider stepping aside so that he can create room for his own son.
You see, Uganda's politics is shaped in a manner that people will always have aspirations. People will always have wishes. And because we are a democracy which has got freedoms, there is no you can curtail people's freedom of expressing what they think and feel. However, moving forward, I wouldn't expect Idrissa to imagine that every member of parliament is a lawyer. You know, contesting for parliamentary position is to have senior 6 or its equivalent. Now, that tells you that not everybody in parliament understands the law, whereas the legislators, by then, not all of them understand the law. And so, people who were pushing Muhoozi might have fallen short of what our laws say, especially the Constitution and the UPDF Act. That's number. Number two, people who were pushing Muhoozi had an assumption that by 2025, around October, he will be out of the UPDF Act, and therefore he can offer himself. But also, number three, Uganda is a democratic country whereby we have seen people push candidates, including President Museveni, in 2017. When the age limit had caught up with him, it's Ugandans who agitated for the removal of age limit. So It is within our practice as Ugandans that sometimes
He was pushed.
Sometimes when we see Idrissa doing well here, we say Idrissa should be the manager and the owner of BTM. And I don't take that one in bad faith, because it is what people see in you and wish for you. So for members of parliament and the general public who are looking at MK as that he should contest, is their wish, and therefore they see capability in him. They see potential. Why didn't they advocate for you or me? It's because they have seen what is exceptional in him that me and you do not have. But
the president answered that already. When he told him, I think they were in Chankwanzi, and he was like, be careful with the people around you. They're serving their selfish interests. So by pushing him, they have expectations.
Yeah, but
they are selfish interests.
You see, the president's statement has to be put in context. You see, after the president made that statement, we all know that he appointed Honorable Minister Baram Barugahara as the Minister of State for Children and Youth Affairs. He was one of the people around General Muhoozi Kainerugaba. Now, he appointed Lilian Aber as the Minister for State in the Office of the Prime Minister in charge of refugees. So when you are analyzing the President's statement, you have to give it context. And the context cannot be general context. Maybe the President had picked intelligence. Actually, the President had picked intelligence, and he had fears that, yes, Muhoozi could be surrounded within the team. Could be some bad elements, but not all elements are bad. And that is why he picked from those elements around him and made them ministers. Otherwise, why would he make ministers from people who are self-seekers?
Thanks for raising that. There are those who interpret that in this way. They are like the president was trying to weaken Muhoozi and his PLU when he picked out his cream, his right-hand men, including Balam, the Lilian Aber, and what? Because Lilian Aber was pulling the entire northern region.
Yes.
Balam here was working so well, both in western and central region. President Museveni, by picking those people and appointing them, ministers, making them busy, he was taking them away from Muhoozi, and thus weakening him.
Actually, the other way around, Muhoozi and his people, at that point, were in parliament, because members of parliament had clearly shown their stance in supporting General MK. If you remember, when we went to Teso sub-region, the speaker had almost 190-something members of parliament who welcomed General Muhoozi Kainerugaba. So the parliament had accepted. Now, President Museveni was bringing Muhoozi close to the cabinet. So by picking Baram and Lilian, General Muhoozi was being extended into the cabinet. So people who think it was a weakening technique, in my view, have not really read through how the politics unfolded.
And from what you're seeing, really, Mr. Balam, Honorable Lilian Aber,
yes,
still serving the PLU or General Muhoozi as they used to do before they appointed ministers.
You see,
well, now they were made occupied with President Museveni's work, and so they are no longer serving, their former patron.
You see, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, as a CDF, serves the commander-in-chief, who is the president. General MK was appointed by President Museveni, who is the commander-in-chief. Therefore, whatever he does is within the interests and the strategic intent of the commander-in-chief. Likewise, the ministers who were appointed from PLU are serving the appointing authority, who is the head of state, the head of government, the command of the armed forces, which their patron was serving. So appointing them means that collectively they have to serve President Museveni and the state of Uganda. Now, here we are no longer talking about allegiance to individuals. We are talking about allegiance to the strategic intent of the appointing authority. What does the president want in terms of Uganda's image, Uganda's face? fulfilling the promises he made to the people some years back in 2020, 2021. And so, having General Muhoozi Kainerugaba in the military, President is trying to fulfill the line of security and defense strategically through UPDF. Having Baram and Lilian as cabinet ministers, the President is trying to fulfill the manifesto and service delivery to the people. So, allegiance is no longer to individuals, it is now to the government of Uganda. And so, whereas Lilian Abero has not denounced her position as Vice President of Patriotic League of Uganda, Northern Region, whereas Baram has not denounced his position as Vice President for Western Region, they are working under President Museveni, and MK is working under President. So we are all serving the interest of the appointing authority. No contradiction.
How about those who think that Mr. Muhoozi coming up with such a statement that he wants to be on the ballot, he was actually pushed by his... It wasn't out of his way.
Yes.
Because numerous occasions this man has come out to exhibit interest. He expressing interest in contesting for the presidency of this country. Or in actually ruling. He has never mentioned anywhere contesting. But he was like ruling this country. And now suddenly comes out and says, look, I'm not going to be on the ballot. There are those who think that he was actually pushed. It wasn't out of his will. My orientation and understanding of concepts is that I'm never a speculator. I don't speculate things. Because what makes you think that at age 50, that's number one, at the level of the Chief of Defense Forces, number two, number three, with all trainings and orientations Muhoozi has gone through, that he doesn't have to make a decision unless he's pushed. Let us really... Well, here is his father, who's the president, and he wants to vie for the same position. And his father tells him that, look here, I'm still here.
People are simply saying that Muhoozi does not have a freedom to express himself, and that is very wrong. What we must appreciate is General Muhoozi Kainerugaba is a very obedient servant of Uganda who has dedicated himself to ensuring that Uganda is safe in the eyes of neo-colonialists, in the eyes of imperialists. But also this is a young man who offered his youthful age to putting on boots, which is exceptional for sons of leaders in Africa and in the world. I want you to scroll and look at the families of the former presidents of USA, with the exception of George Bush Walker family. Look at the lifestyles of the sons and daughters of the previous leaders of US and even current. You'll be surprised. They are wastage.
Because
they are wastage. Look at the lifestyle of the children of presidents in Africa. They are owning yachts. They are on the Indian Ocean enjoying life. But the man put on a uniform. So to assume that he can't make a decision and express himself is a wrong assumption. What Muhoozi did was to give direction to the country. That, look, I'm in military attire, the law does not allow me to contest. Number two, I cannot contest with my father. That would be, first of all, breaking...
What brought us to the confusion in the first place?
That would be breaking the family ties.
So he had come out to rectify what he had messed up with. Because it's him who had imparted all that into us.
Do you know why?
Confusing us.
Do you know why? Because people have seen potential in him, that he can be a president. That one is not doubtable. They have seen potential in him. But the timing is not now. Because you can't be a president of Uganda when you are in military attire. The law forbids you. And as an obedient servant of Uganda, which has got a constitution, he doesn't see it viable that he breaks the constitution and stands when he's in military attire. So, by making the statements, he's showing obedience, but above all, he's cognitive of the fact that people are saying Muhoozi still has capability. And so why would he contest with his fuzz on the ballot paper?
Well, that also reminds me of the same, going back to the tweet he made, when he was telling us that he wanted to be on the ballot. It was not just about that, but he went on to say that this country will never be led by a civilian, but rather a police officer or a soldier And this statement raised dust as well. People are like, what kind of future is this man? You know, I mean, what kind of future is he trying to project our country into? If you want to take us back into the turmoil days, why would a civilian, what does a civilian have to do this country? In other words, you don't find any problem with this statement of his, that this country can't be led by a civilian.
One, I was following Parliament. I think, last week. And the Speaker of Parliament, Deputy Speaker, Right Honorable Thomas Tayebwa, tasked members of Parliament to produce the tweet. And it's not on record. So I don't want to discuss what's not on record. But moving forward, I want us to look at African democracies. Because I want to give a broader perspective of this, of a point like that, if it is in the minds of some people. African democracies cannot be separated from military. Why? Because the oldest country in Africa is 70 years. That is Egypt, 1956, 70 years. And in 70 years,
oldest in terms of
independence, yes.
Is it Ghana?
Whatever, but it's not above 70 years. It's around there, 70 years. Now, 70 years coming from an era of captivity, coming from an era of colonialism, coming from an era where the administration was in the hands of foreigners who had African rifles as the army. Now, it means that the military is embedded within our society and governance. To have a government which can stand alone without the support of the military in Africa, up to like in the next 150 years, it's a bit tricky. You'll always need military to survive. And therefore, at some point, you'll always need leaders who have got that military appreciation of the country, the region, and the continent to survive.
And you understand the price those countries have had to pay, where the military is intertwined with the politics.
Yes.
You know how they have
Did you see Biden addressing America last night? He addressed America after Major General somebody from Pentagon addressing the world. Do you know why? It is the military which is giving direction. So therefore, you can't separate military from politics. The military can just go into the background, but you can't separate it. So in African democracies, you cannot undress the democracy from the military. Why? Because we achieved our independence through military struggles. So therefore, we still form the foundation.
In the leadership, because he was like, we can't have a civilian rule this country. We shall always have, you know, military men. And this, when you go look into history, you know how this has been problematic. We've had very good presidents who are intelligent, but because they don't have military background,
yes,
they've suffered coup d'etat.
No, they have collapsed.
No, they have been dislodged by the military.
Dislodged, why? Because maybe they have fallen short somewhere. Because
do you want to justify the coup d'etat of 1971 and 1985?
You see, I don't want to justify a coup, because first of all, I don't believe in a coup, and I'm not a military man to think about a coup. But when you go back to 1971, the 18 reasons for the coup, one of them was rampant corruption. Rampant corruption, 1971. Rampant corruption was one of the 18 reasons given. Now, this rampant corruption was within a civilian government.
Where even the masterminds of the coup themselves were implicated in those corruption.
No. You see, the issue was the move to the left strategy, which the president was adopting at the time. But one of the reasons was rampant corruption. Number two, we have not had a civilian leader stay longer in power or even make achievements that are equivalent to those ones who are in military attire. People will always talk about Amin. I don't want to talk about Amin because they will say, because you're a Muslim, you are defending a Muslim. But the achievements of Idi Amin, if they are true as we hear them, he did them because he was a military man. I want you to tell me the achievements of those people who came after me, 79 to 86. You don't see them. Now, from 86 to now, whatever we are talking about has been achieved when we have got a retired general, a military leader, as our president.
And when you compare
so
time
when
38 years vis-a-vis what you're talking about,
let me complete my point. No, now, when we look at the projection of Africa and Uganda, we think that, some of us might think that really we need military men at the echelon of leadership so they can strategically sustain Uganda within a region which is unstable. You know, Uganda is the only country in the, what we usually call the Intercaspian region, or the Great Lakes, which is stable. You have got Burundi, which has got issues. You have got Congo, which has got issues. You have got South Sudan, which has got issues. You have Ethiopia with Tigray. You have Somalia.
Have you heard from those countries where they say that they want to blame the insecurity on us? Partly blame the insecurity.
No, I don't discuss speculation because we are talking about a matter of security. So when you enter into it, you must have knowledge about it. Now, when you have a country like Uganda, which is stable, and you are sure that the stability of the country is hinged on the military, then sometimes you are forced not to make mistakes and think that Idris Oka Mugisha will come and offer leadership and sustain that security and stability of the country. So people who think that maybe we might need a continuity of men who were formerly military as presidents could be right, depending on how we are surviving and how we are within the region as a country.
Let's first take a break, Shah. When we come back, we shall continue. You know, taking a glance at the matters of politics and policy in the country. And also, it's going to be sharing with us his perspectives on what the former leader of opposition, Mathias Mpuuga, is bringing in Parliament, that bill, which partly entails restoration of term limits and also minimizing the size of Parliament. Don't go away. The day break continues shortly.
Uganda, your #1 leading education newspaper, is back, bigger and better. With articles to fully suit the educational triangle from the government, schools and parents all over the country, aiming at answering the ever left out questions, not forgetting revision questions and answers set by experienced teachers to prepare students for their finals. The Learner newspaper is supplied to over 12,068 schools all over the country with affordable advertising rates. We offer many more services which include uniform and sweater tailoring, all with an aim of easing work for the educationists. Contact us on 0754 777 029 or 0774 621 539. Email us on info@learnernews.com or visit our website at www.learnernews.com. You can also visit our offices at City Center Complex, Room J15, 4th floor, along Loom Street. The Learner, prioritizing education.
Discover your voice at WUMCAT School of Journalism and Mass Communication. We are now accepting applications for our August intake. Join us to gain hands-on experience from industry experts and build a career in media through our dynamic diploma, certificate, and short courses. Acquire cutting-edge journalism skills on over 28 years of training future industry leaders. Start your journey with us today. WUMCAT, where professionalism meets development.
uliyunganyika kasadoozi lyo wetaaga okutumbula ekitundu eky'omukuyimba kano kekasiireko BTM TV akuletedde Raise Your Mic yimba ate ensonga za kuyimbira ku live band ngate abawanguzi bakwewangulya ebirabo eby'enjawulo okuli obukadde bw'ensimbi 5 pikipiki kapyata okulikodinga nyimba mu audio ne vidiyo n'ebirabo ebirala bingi okwetaba mu Raise Your Mic genda ku simu yo nyiga *247*407# olondeko option ya Raise Your Mic olondeko option ya participate osindike message buterevu ojja kuba weetabe mu auditions wano ku BTM TV abaana babayiseemu ku mutendera oguddako bakulondebwa abalabi bafe aba BTM era beewangulira ebirabo biwugiddwa Simba Automotives ne bikutuusibwako BTM TV.
As you still watching the Daybreak, my name is Idrissa Mwonge, and I'm here with Sheikh Haj Kasim Kamugisha, who is a lawyer and a politician. Being a lawyer, I wanted to ask you briefly, congratulate you on the election of your new president, Councillor Semakade. Did you participate in the election? Or
No.
You didn't?
I didn't.
Okay.
But I want to join my learned friends and congratulate the new president of ULS, Uganda Law Society. That is Council, you know, he'll be a senior
Isaac
council.
Semakade.
Council Isaac Semakade, congratulations.
Okay.
I think the young lawyers spoke, made a statement, and for us we are waiting to see how bang the tables will create a lasting impact in the Uganda Law Society. But by and large, I congratulate him. He has got a year to prove a point and leave a formidable legacy in the Uganda Law Society.
I saw him hold a broom, said that he has a lot of cleaning to do. And when he was campaigning,
Yes.
among the things he was vowing to do was to throw out Mr. Chiriwa Chiwanuka. I mean, he has problems that he can't be serving as an attorney general. And he continues to own a law firm. The K&K.
You know, for me, I don't want to discuss individuals, but the bottom line is Chiriwa Chiwanuka is the appointed Attorney General of the Republic of Uganda, appointed by the President.
So it's healthy for him to continue serving his law firm?
Appointed by the President. We do not want to enter into because Semakade has been and is a lawyer, an advocate of the courts of judicature. Chiriwa Chiwanuka was appointed 3.5 years ago. What stopped him from petitioning the court of the Constitutional Court or Court of Appeal, which sits as a constitutional court, to interpret what he's talking about now? No, these were just campaigning tools and slogans. A broom, I want to see him carrying a broom every day. He will not be carrying a broom. I want to see him banging a table every day. He won't be banging the table. Let us accept that he had his campaign slogan. It worked and is now the president of Uganda Law Society. The problems of Uganda Law Society are far bigger than engaging in individual fights. Let him make an accomplishment in the Uganda Law Society rather than fighting individuals.
Okay.
He will have given a dedicated service to our country, Uganda.
All right then. Going back to the point we were discussing before we took a break. Final questions about it. This bill you are talking about had a structure.
It has a structure.
It has.
It has.
Present tense.
Even yesterday, but the Greater Mukono was appointed.
Yeah, sure.
Headed by Ruanga. So you don't say it had. It has a structure. And to have a structure continuously.
What are they doing now? What are they mobilizing
it's a
for?
civic organization which has got its civic duties that we talked about: patriotism, gospel, environmental conservation, and very many others. So it has a lot of work to do on its desk.
We've never understood why it was Muhoozi coming out to come up with a body that could, you know, promote patriotism among Ugandans. What had happened? Did you realize that the levels of patriotism in the Ugandans' hearts had gone down? And if that was the case, I think we should have gone and addressed the real issues that had, you know, mitigated patriotism in Ugandans' hearts.
Let me correct you and the viewers. When you go into URSB, Uganda Registration Service Bureau, it's not General Muhoozi Kainerugaba who registered Patriotic League of Uganda. It was not Muhoozi Kainerugaba, it was not Baramba Rugahara, it was not Aberirian who registered Patriotic League of Uganda. It was registered by other people, and that one is confidential. I can't delve into it now. And they picked a patron. So Muhoozi is a patron of Patriotic League of Uganda, but he's not the one who registered it.
Well, it's like telling me that Museveni never registered NRM.
NRM is a political party, and it was
it's like telling me
registered by
he never registered it. But who owns it? It is
no.
who owns it.
You see, matters of registration, matters of ownership in law are different from what people see on the ground. Now, it is Mbabazi, Right Honorable Prime Minister Emeritus Amama Mbabazi, who registered NRM, and other members who are in the party constitution who are like 112. And among them is not Museveni.
And who owns it now?
He's the chairman. So if I'm the chairman of Vanero C1, is it mine? No. I'm simply chairman. I'm giving leadership at that time. So any other person can come and give leadership. Likewise for PRU, a civic organization, because there is no law which stops a military officer from participating in civic activities. That is why you will see UPDF on, for example, on 6th of February, you see them cleaning towns, you see them engaging in medical outreaches. And when you have Ebola here, for example, when you have COVID, you will see UPDF being called on to do a civic role in those outbreaks. There is no law therefore which stops a serving military officer from participating in civic activities. But that does not mean that when I'm participating in civic activity, I'm the one who registered that other organization. So it's not MK.
So he was just serving as a patron?
He's a patron.
A patron also makes appointments and disappointments.
No.
We have seen him hire and fire.
You see, the last appointment which MK made was when we were still in MK movement, when he was appointing regional vice presidents and coordinators. But from that time up to now, it is the Secretary General of Patriotic League of Uganda who appoints.
Mr. Kabanda.
You can bring a tweet where Rwanga was appointed. You will see it is signed by Honorable David Kabanda, MP, and Secretary General of Patriotic League of Uganda. So, for purposes of guiding the country and collecting the country, it is not MK who is making appointments, it is the Secretary General. But of course, through consultations and guidances, who is endorsing the appointments. So the appointment letter is being endorsed by the Secretary General of Patriotic League of Uganda.
And Ugandans, of course, you cannot stop them from being curious and asking questions. They have been also questioning the source of funding, because to uphold such a structure, have the activities of this PRU run, it must be financed. And who is behind the finance?
Civic organizations in Uganda are financed. But also I want to give an academic perspective that finances for an idea. You first have an idea, and the idea will be financed. Now, among the sources of financing, or the models of financing, there are individual voluntary contributions which are silent. You see, when I want to take you to Kenya, in 1992, there was a pressure group called YK92, Youth for Kenya 92, which was led by Cyrus Jirongo, and it had Juni Moi, I think that's the daughter of former President Moi. It had Gideon Moi. It had Ruto. Ruto was an executive secretary of the group. Now, but that group at one point received 11 billion from an Indian running a company within Kenya. Not a political Indian, not a minister, not a government, but an individual, because he appreciated the work these people were doing. Now, even in the future, when some information is declassified, because much of the information is now classified, when it is declassified, you will find that it was Idrissa who was financing PRU. I am giving an example. Okay. So we should not worry about the sources of funding for PRU, as long as we are not seeing it tampering with the budget of the country or eating from any parastatal.
Okay. Let's go back. Now, I want to take you now to shift the debate to Mr. Mpuga and the bill he's bringing to Parliament, which contains ideas like restoring the term limits. Okay. There's also minimizing the size of Parliament.
And creating a second house.
Yes, in the interest of time, I wanted us to dwell on those first two I mentioned. Do you really think this is called for? It's necessary to have term limits restored in the first place? Because these term limits, in the first place, would ask why were they removed? To serve in the interest of the man who now no longer needs that because he has served, and he fears whether they are restored or not, it won't have any impact on him.
But you see, Idris, first and foremost, a private member bring a bill, a private member's bill on the floor of Parliament, is his constitutional right. It's not the first one. The former army commander, former MP, General Mugisha Muntu, at one time brought an omnibus bill in Parliament. It wasn't successful, but it had many amendments he thought would be looked into at the floor of Parliament. And we have had very many other private members bring bills and succeed, including Magezi. Magezi's bill was a private member's bill. Magezi. Yes, Magezi was the age limit. Yeah, it was a private member's bill. Now, so there is nothing which stops Right Honorable Mpuga, I call him Right Honorable because he was a former leader of opposition. There's nothing which stops him from proposing amendments to the Constitution. However, let's always not forget that in 2016, when Right Honorable Mbabazi contested with President Museveni and he petitioned the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court guided that there should be some reforms. And I think there were 10 reforms which were recommended by the Supreme Court. Now, those reforms have never been implemented, even when some have come out, but they're in piecemeal. And I think part of what Mpuga is bringing out is a reflection of what the Supreme Court was talking about. And so I want to say that it is his right to bring a bill. Now, I don't want to tie an amendment on an individual, because term limits were removed in 2005. I think 2005.
5 years.
And I think we need to have a look at the Hansard. But what were the discussions around removal of term limits? Because you see, when you keep tying Uganda on President
Museveni. Well, I can tell you, I know you've already said on this very edition of the Daybreak, you've said that you don't want to discuss speculation.
Yes.
But I can tell you that in 2005, it wasn't just members of parliament, removing it, but they were awarded something. 5 million per member of parliament.
So you think 5 million is too much to convince a member of parliament?
That time it was, and no. I could even tell you it was, yes.
No, you see, how much were they earning as a salary?
Wasn't as much as what they currently.
Exactly, but it was far way above 5 million. So it cannot be a motivation. What I can say is maybe they had the will, but maybe facilitating their movements and consultations in their area required some support, which wasn't part of their individual budgets. So we have to draw a line between a bribe, because a bribe is when I'm convincing you to execute something or to do something in my favor, and a facilitation.
Oh.
When someone is saying, yes, you have to do this work, but you need some fair and over. So we have to differentiate. But by and large, I don't want to tie an amendment of the constitutional individual, because I will be losing focus. One, these amendments of the Constitution, for example, the age limit the term limit are not part of the entrenched articles of the Constitution. Because the articles of the Constitution, which are entrenched, the entrenched articles form the basic structure doctrine. They form the BCD, the base of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. If you tamper with them, the Constitution collapses. Now, people who didn't entrench term limits and age limits knew that these were not really fundamentals of the Constitution. But in the long run, people's positions would, for example, change on how they look at things. Because today I'm putting on a tie. So it must that tomorrow will be in a tie. My opinion will always change depending on the environment. Likewise, laws are amended to cure a mischief. There should be a reason why the amendment is coming in. Maybe in 2005, the mischief was term limits are not needed as per the parliament and the strategic leadership. In 2024, Honorable Mpuga, from where he sits, because he's a member of opposition,
He realizes there's a need to...
he thinks that
restore this
where, if I convince parliament and they accept my position, I think we need to bring back term limits.
Let's talk about the size of parliament. Is it needed at this moment to reduce the size of parliament?
Where I'm waiting for the government, because you know there are private members' bills, and the government will also generate memoranda, which also becomes a bill and finally an act of parliament, if discussed and succeeds in the floor of parliament. I'm waiting to see what government thinks about the size of parliament. Because the size of parliament is a reflection, is a representation of Ugandans. It should be me, you, and everybody outside seated in parliament. But parliament is
But
small.
it's representatives.
Exactly. So, is it that Ugandans are complaining about the size of parliament, or an individual is looking at it? Number two, what could be the pros and cons of having the parliament reduced? Number three, if we reduce the size of parliament, is it what will efficiently deliver services for the Ugandans? Because what Ugandans want outside is service delivery. So if we say, because Kampala will have more than 10 MPs from Kampala, let's say metropolitan. If we said we want only 2 MPs, a man and a woman for Kampala, will that decrease, facilitate, and efficiently deliver services to the people of Kampala? So the discussion should resonate well with what people expect from governance. And if they're expecting service delivery, let us say that whatever we are doing now in terms of amendments will improve on the health care, on the transport infrastructure, on education of the services of our country, and then we say, go ahead and amend. But if it is a political sugar for some people who are bringing these other amendments, then I would not have real support.
But haven't you had Ugandans concerned, where they said, look, first of all, we spend so much of these people. And it's also unnecessary to have all these people in parliament. I think the problem emanates from the fact that the country spends a lot on them in terms of their remunerations. That's where the concern comes from.
Do you know how long Mpuga has been in parliament?
Well, he entered parliament in 2011. So it's
How many years?
It's now coming. He's serving third term.
I want to see such people like Mpuga, Segona, Wilfred Nwaga, my good friend, Honorable Bahat. I want to see them proposing term limits for members of parliament. I want to see them proposing really what directly affects them. I want them to propose that a member of parliament should serve for only 2 terms.
But if it talks about the size, reducing the size of parliaments, then that is also likely to get back.
So what about the constituencies which you have not consulted and they are happy with their member of parliament? So it is a whole conversation which must be put in perspective of Ugandans, ordinary Ugandans. Then it comes on the floor as a reflection of what Ugandans are thinking in terms of that size of parliament. What I would actually agree with is having a second arm, an upper house of parliament. Because you have got brilliant brains with experience that have been pushed off the radar. For example, you have the likes of Chintu Musoke. This is an eminent man, former Prime Minister of Uganda, but you have sent him to Masaka to sit. When is his knowledge and experience working? You have got Right Honorable Mama Mbabazi, you have Kazibwe, you have Dr. Ruhakana Rugunda. They are just there. If you had an upper house which checks the results of the lower house, then maybe you would have the finest of the decisions made by Parliament. Because you know that the lower house of the likes of Kamujisha, Idrissa will quarrel and emotionally vote. Then there will be a house of reason, a house of soberness and really experience to sieve through this resolution by the lower house and make it the position of the country. So I think we should be thinking about that the other echelon in terms of legislation that can always give the finest to our country.
Okay. We have to get out of here, Haj.
Oh.
Any parting shot to
Thank you, BTM, for hosting us. Thank you, guys, for watching our show. And let each one of us, wherever you are seated, make it a point to ensure that in your daily activities, you add a brick to the construction and progress of Uganda. Uganda as our country needs each one of us. Some countries have collapsed because people didn't understand their generational responsibility. They never appreciated that Uganda, their countries demand something from them. And countries like Yugoslavia, the Greater Prussian Empire, collapsed and no longer on the world map. Ugandans, you have a duty to protect our country for the daughters and granddaughters of ours and sons to see and appreciate what you did as their former generations. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Haj Sheikh Kasim Kamugisha. Thank you so much, our dear viewers. We've come to the end of this edition of the Day Break. That's what I keep saying every time I get an opportunity to look into camera. That we have one country called Uganda, yes, and no foreigner is going to love it more than we should as the citizens. It's our responsibility to keep it intact and also help it to elevate it from one stage of development to another. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy our subsequent programming. Until we meet again tomorrow, inshallah. Goodbye for now, and see you then.